Ladies and gentlemen, I went over all the quotes yesterday, actual quotes, and I'm going to go back over them again. From his report, Cass R. Sunstein, now the head of the Office of Information and Regulatory Affairs, he says they're going to ban free speech, ban freedom on talk radio, ban internet freedom. He says the Second Amendment will be overturned. He says there's no history of freedom, that it's made up. He says, watch in the next 3 years, and he said this a year ago, we will, this is a quote, we will, you don't be surprised if we overturn the Second Amendment, and laughs about it. And he's set to replace Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Obama's favorite for Supreme Court Justice Sunstein wants to ban guns and free speech. We have the actual quotes and video, more than we can air here, at prisonplanet.com in this Paramount article. Paramount article that this get out to everyone. You know, I saw news articles about how, oh, he calls for fascism, the liberals said. Oh, he calls for censorship. He calls for COINTELPRO. COINTELPRO is illegal. It's illegal to go start groups and lead them to violence to blame it on conservatives or libertarians or peace groups. It's illegal. It was found to be legal in Congress and in the courts in the 1970s and 80s. I've got it all right here. COINTELPRO. According to the FBI records, 85% of COINTELPRO resources were expended on infiltrating, disrupting, marginalizing, and or subverting groups suspected of being subversive. It's illegal. It included the FBI putting out stories about Martin Luther King, which were proven to be lies about him whoremongering. They attack groups by saying, oh, the leader's making too much money. Or they attack groups that are effective by saying the leaders are racist. Or they attack groups by turning people inside their organizations against each other. Or getting people hired into the organizations to commit crimes. Or they create other alternative media groups and then have them attack. And he talks about how to do that. How they go out and how they masquerade as us to then demonize the patriot movement, anybody that's against government corruption. And even more importantly, he says we will ban conspiracy theories, and that means any criticism of government. He defines conspiracy theories like global warming not being real, or thinking the banks are corrupt, or questioning the official story of 9/11, which Farmer, the head of the 9/11 Commission lawyers, says is a cover-up. And 6 of the 10 members say that. They get to define reality. They get to say 2 + 2 = 50, not 2 + 2 = 4. He says it will be an outlawed conspiracy theory. You got to read this for yourself, folks. This is published by Harvard and Chicago Law School, written by him. He says it is an outrageous conspiracy theory to say that sunlight is good for you. This will be banned. When every major study shows you need at least some sunlight. I mean, but even if it wasn't true, it's your right to say it. And he says, we'll put a tax on talk radio and the internet and people we don't like to begin with and then outright ban them. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, we've written 5 articles on it. Sunstein attacks Second Amendment, Infowars.com, with links to videos and his own writings. Obama Information Czar calls for banning free speech. Obama Information Czar outlined plan for government to infiltrate conspiracy groups. And the most, of all the important things, one of the most important is he says these people are incredibly effective conspiracy groups, people that say the government's corrupt. These people that say there's a world government are very effective and they're undermining our takeover. So we need to arrest them. We need to infiltrate them. But he admits that we are powerful and that the truth is powerful and that they're in deep trouble. And then I went and looked, and I already looked at a bunch of them. Every czar saying Mao Zedong is good. Every czar saying we need to ban free speech like Chavez has done. His diversity czar had said that. I mean, these people are outrageous. That's why the White House got rid of Van Jones. Not because of all the heat on him saying he was a communist, but because he said 9/11 might be an inside job. He had some soul to tell the truth. They didn't get rid of the White House science czar who called for forced sterilization of the public through the water supply and a planetary dictatorship to carry it out. Eco-science, mainstream news, Associated Press, Fox News. No. They got rid of Jones because he was, at some level, a real activist, even if I disagree with his politics. For the rest of the hour, Bob Chapman normally joins us. Army intelligence, fought the communists, with the biggest private silver and gold broker ever, lived in South Africa, France, Germany, all over the world. expert on the economy. I get him on about that, but he also is an expert on these people who've been fighting him for 45 years. Bob, I had read articles months ago about Sunstein in mainstream news saying, oh, he does want to restrict the internet. Is that fair? Like it's mainstream and okay. I hadn't actually read or watched the videos of him, and watching it, and then when I put the name Czar in, I found a bunch of other clips. I'd put in Obama czar calls for banning guns, and I'd find 6, 7, 8 other czars saying it. I mean, this is worse than I thought, Bob Chapman. These people are arrogantly and openly out in the open saying, if you say anything we disagree with, we are going to arrest you, and we are going to take your guns. I mean, it's incredible, Bob.
You're right, and they finally have totally come into the open. And so evidently over the next year or so, or perhaps 2, they're going to attempt to get people's guns. And I think how they're going to do it is by joining in with the UN and using the UN excuse to go and collect everybody's guns.
The treaty, yeah, that's Associated Press. Obama says he's going to sign the treaty, and even if the Senate doesn't ratify it, the UN treaty says no private ownership of guns. I mean, it's really happening.
Well, you know, this infiltration business, it's been going on for years. I ran into it starting in 1965, and I actually had a friend of mine who was working in a store, and he was also a person who was an expert in weapons, and he was a person who fixed them as well. And he got a visit one day from the FBI and the BATF, and they said that if he didn't cooperate with them, they were going to put him in jail, and trying to put me in jail, and because I was outspoken. And so they have been doing this sort of thing for years and years. They've been infiltrating groups for years. It's not only the federal government, but the federal government, like with the FBI, would go to local police departments and recruit them.
Yeah, mainly state police.
Well, yeah, it was state police, but they went into the local level. And I've discussed this I lived in Los Angeles for a long time, with the LAPD, because I used to shoot with a lot of those people. And also with someone who was second in command there who went to take over the Beverly Hills Police Department, who was a next-door neighbor of mine eventually. And so he told me exactly what they were doing. And so it's really nothing new. It's just that they've been doing it illegally for years, and now these people have come out and said the game's over for you. You can't speak about the government, against the government, or question the government anymore, and we're going to come and get your guns. And so I think people have got to decide and make plans for what they're going to do and these eventualities.
Well, that's the nail on the head, is that it came out in Congress, people went to jail, COINTELPRO is illegal, and then you have the White House head of information and regulatory affairs who implements all this executive bureaucracy. He decides what they can do, and he's saying, we're doing this. He's openly calling for committing crimes. That's the difference. Why would they arrogantly come out in the open? Is this a public threat or a way to legitimize it with all their minions who go, is this really legal?
Well, I think it's a threat. This is a threat, especially when you have that many people saying relatively the same thing. They're saying, we're going to come and get you. This is the Mayo mentality. And, what do you say to that? I mean, how many groups are there in the United States who get together and are militia or shoot or whatever? And, there's not that many people who do that. It could be a smokescreen as well to make the people who would vote for them to keep them in office, they're appealing to people who don't want people to have guns. You also have to consider, too, maybe the blatancy that you're seeing right now is a follow-up to the plunge in approval of the president, which is running somewhere between 35 and 40, depending upon which subject that you choose.
Well, what about how he goes on, Bob, to say, and I'm going to find the quote here in a moment, I read it several times yesterday, he says these people are very effective, they're taking over, they threaten us, and he doesn't just say gun owners. He says anyone criticizing government, including if you say sunlight is good for you, that will be illegal. I mean, that is cuckoo. I mean, he's saying, I am God, you cannot have any alternative opinion of what we say or you're arrested.